Well, ladies and gentlemen, less than an hour ago, we just got concrete proof that this generation of iPhones is selling very, very weak. We've had a lot of rumors about the iPhone could be selling weak, but we just got our first concrete proof evidence that the iPhone is 100%, this generation of iPhones is 100% selling pretty weak, okay? So we started getting some hints around this about a month ago or so, when Apple said it's going to stop reporting how many iPhones, iPads, and Macs it sells each quarter, okay? I think that's a good business decision for Apple long term. I think that's a good decision, but the way a lot of people looked at it is definitely, Apple's trying to hide the iPhone numbers and whatnot, and they just took away the iPad and Mac numbers as well because that's a good decision, so they don't have to show those numbers and whatnot anymore, all right? So that was the first hint that, well, if iPhone numbers were super strong, why go ahead and take them away, okay? So that was kind of like the first hint we got that, wait a minute, iPhone numbers might be actually very, very weak going into 2019, okay? Then we had a report come out on November 19th that said Apple reportedly cuts iPhone XS and XR production orders amid lower than expected demand. In recent weeks, Apple slashed its production orders for its latest iPhone XS and XS Max, as well as the XR models due to lower than expected demand, among other reasons, according to unnamed sources cited by the Wall Street Journal, all right? Now, between Apple going ahead and deciding they're not going to disclose iPhone numbers anymore, and in this report, it was looking like there's something going on there. There must be pretty weak demand, but at the same time, there was still nothing concrete that somebody saying, oh yes, for sure. It's just like, oh, some unnamed sources said things might be a little weak, and Apple's taking iPhone. You can start putting pieces together, but at the same time, we still didn't have any concrete proof, okay? This report went on to say the production cuts are said to have reignited frustration among iPhone suppliers and raised worries that Apple's ability to forecast demand is very poor, all right? Now, at the same time, a lot of people said iPhone X was a failure, a flop. A lot of people were saying that. There were a lot of reports around that, okay? But then what ended up happening, the iPhone X ended up being the top selling iPhone ever in history, okay? And it ended up being by far and away the top selling phone out there in the world. So just so you guys know, like if Apple sales aren't up to par, okay, it's not necessarily they're doing bad and somebody else is taking market share. Sometimes it's just because demand is weak across the board in the high-end smartphone market, which is a lot of what we're seeing right now, okay? Now, if we go ahead and look also on the Apple website, we're going to see the iPhone X you can get one of those today, okay? So there's obviously not like crazy demand for that device, all right? Although I do believe that's going to be the top selling iPhone in this model. I've said that many times, and I think it will be proved right that will be the top selling volume number for iPhones. We'll never know because Apple doesn't even going to show their numbers anymore. And then if you go to the iPhone XS, you can get one of those tomorrow. You can get one of those today if you want. You can go down and pick up one of those at the store. So obviously demand's not crazy for that. Even the XS Max, which is the one that a lot of people on the high-end space want, right? That one, literally, you can go get it today at any Apple store you possibly want, okay? So needless to say, you start putting all these pieces together, and it looks like there's definitely some weakness in iPhone demand, but we still never had something specific concrete. Now, Apple stock today was up around 3.5%. It had a very, very good day today, but then all of a sudden, it started to weaken in aftermarket. It was down around 1% aftermarket. And so I'm editing a lesson I was posting in my private stock market membership group today. I'm editing this lesson. All of a sudden I get a text from a friend who says, hey, have you seen Cruise stock after hours, which is one of my investments. It's one of many investments I have. And he's like, it's down big after hours. I'm like, no, I haven't seen Cruise after hours. I'm like, why is it randomly down on December 3rd or 4th or whatever today? Like, Cruise isn't announcing earnings. Apple's not announcing earnings. Like, there should be, there's no big news out there. Why would Cruise be down big? And I go ahead on my stock tracker app and I look and I'm like, okay, Cruise is down 6% after hours. And immediately, as soon as I saw it was down 6%, I was like, I know what happened. Like, they had to went ahead and revise guidance down. And sure enough, that is exactly what they came out and did here after hours, okay? So Cirrus Logic, they went ahead and took their guidance from around 360 million to 400 million to now 300 million to 340 million. So quite a steep decline Cirrus Logic did there, just to kind of get those numbers out there. And the 360 to 400, that was not like it was some kind of super high numbers that they might hit or something like that. And Cirrus Logic specifically says in the report, due to recent weakness in the smartphone market. So all the hints we got, it all proved right. This was the first concrete evidence we got that Apple iPhone numbers are weak. Now, if you're wondering, who's this Cirrus Logic company? Why is this so impactful? Well, first thing you got to understand is Cirrus Logic gets 80 to 90% of their current revenue in this quarter we're in right now from Apple. Cirrus Logic is expected to diversify a bit starting in the springtime because they should get Samsung back as a full-time customer sometime this spring. But needless to say, like right now, this quarter we're in and even most of next quarter, these are Apple number quarters, okay? So anything Cirrus Logic pretty much has coming in the door is Apple. Cirrus Logic has many other customers, but their other customers are so insignificant because they have so many different chips in the iPhones, and iPhones just sell so well, okay? So needless to say, like, it's not a question of maybe someone else that, maybe some of other Cirrus Logic cuts. No, like Cirrus Logic gets all their revenue pretty much from Apple, at least in this quarter we're in right now, okay? So Cirrus Logic, the fact that they bring down their numbers, the midpoint goes to 320 million from 380 million. So basically that's around an 18% plus decline in what they were expected there, okay? So that's a big decline in revenue there, though. So the production cuts by Apple is definitely pretty significant, needless to say, okay? So what does all this mean? What does all this mean? This means a few things, all right? The first thing is expect Apple to lower guidance sometime soon, or they're going to miss pretty decently on their earnings, especially on the revenue side. I can almost guarantee you that Apple, maybe within the next few weeks, at some point will probably come out and they're going to end up lowering their guidance as well. If they don't lower their guidance and they decide to just wait till earnings to come out with the numbers, they should have a pretty decent beat, unless analysts in the meantime bring down all their numbers substantially for Apple, and then maybe they could come in line. But based upon the numbers right now, and especially based upon the numbers they've been the past month for what they should be hitting in this upcoming quarter, like there's no way they would have hit those numbers they had. So expect a pretty decent miss from Apple, or probably a lower guidance coming out pretty soon, okay? Number two thing to expect is expect other big Apple suppliers to guide down or miss pretty bad over the next month or two. I would expect some more Apple suppliers to come in line like Cirrus Logic and say, hey, we're not going to hit our numbers, we're bringing down guidance or whatnot. If a lot of these big Apple suppliers, which in the semiconductor space, there are a lot of companies that get 30, 40, 50, maybe 60+% of their revenue from Apple, expect a lot of those companies to come out and go ahead and bring down their numbers over the next month or so. If they don't, a lot of those companies are going to miss bad on their earnings, and either way their stocks are going to likely be hit, okay? Number three, expect Apple stock and big Apple suppliers to continue to have weakness for at least the next 3 to 9 months. First off here, a lot of these Apple suppliers, semiconductors in general, they've been hit by the Chinese situation with the tariffs and whatnot. They've also been hit by the fact that the high end of the smartphone market is just unbelievably weak right now in terms of, it's just really hard to get consumers excited. And like I said, there will not be excitement in the smartphone market until 5G comes out. And we're looking at still probably at least a year, if not 2 years from 5G. That will be the next super cycle in iPhones and Samsungs and all the high end. But as of right now, it's just dead out there in the high end smartphone market, okay? So expect still weakness in Apple stock for quite a while, at least the next 3 to 9 months, and expect the suppliers of Apple to continue to have weak stock prices for the next 3 to 9 months. But like I said, a lot of these stocks have been destroyed so bad already that at least some of those losses have already been taken, because we've had the hints that demand could be weak out there. And number four, the only good news about this is it's just great news if you're a long-term buyer of Apple stock, or if you're a long-term buyer of any of the Apple suppliers out there, the semiconductor companies, and you want to build big positions, or you want to build bigger positions. You might have, like a lot of the Apple suppliers, I've just started adding over the last 6 to 9 months, like Cirrus Logic and Skyworks Solutions. I've been starting to buy those stocks over the last 6 to 9 months or so, and I want to continue to buy those because I believe they have great long-term futures. But here in the short term, there's all this, they can't grow because of iPhone. But as 5G comes out, that should just be major growth factors and whatnot for those different companies, and the audio and voice explosion specifically for Cirrus Logic. So if you're a long-term buyer, it's good news. And also, a lot of these companies have big buybacks on. So if you're looking at it as a long-term perspective, perspective, would you rather have these companies buy, Apple's a perfect example. Would you rather have Apple buy back shares at $250 or $150? Obviously, if you're in the stock for the long term, the next 5, 10, 15 years, you'd much rather have them buy a ton of shares back at $150 rather than have to buy way up at $250 or something like that. So if you're a long-term investor in these type of companies with Apple, or Apple suppliers out there and whatnot, it should be some great entry points. There's already great entry points as of right now, but over the next 3 to 9 months, we should continue to be able to buy for cheap prices before the next super cycle comes. Like I said, not sure it will come next year because I'm not sure 5G will quite be ready. It could be the following year, so we'll just have to wait on all that. But at least in the short term, it's not good. The demand, that's the first concrete proof we got that iPhone demand is weak for this cycle of iPhones, guys. So anyways, let me know what your opinion is down there in the comment section. What is your favorite semiconductor stock out there? I would love to hear from you guys. Do you like any of the Apple suppliers long term, any of those semi plays? Do you like Apple stock long term? I really want to hear from you guys in that comment section on this. Thank you for watching and have a great day.